Welcome back. This is part 2 of this chat with Zeb Jones. If you are just tuning in now for the first time, please go back and listen to part 1. Otherwise, you may struggle to make sense of the first half of this. But listen together, makes perfect sense. It was a really enjoyable chat. Went for 3 hours, and I got a lot out of it, and I really hope you guys too. So here's part 2. Enjoy.
So Sambar are funny, right? Like if you've hunted chital, and I've hunted chital, but only with the bow, right? If one chital out of a mob sees you and does its little bark, the whole mob runs without question. I saw it with a spiky, right? A full Sambar hunter. I was stalking in on this mob of chital, and this one spiky pinned me, right? Of 30 deer, he pinned me, and I've just gone, they won't pay any attention to him. So I kept doing what I was doing because I was hunting Sambar that had white dots, right? And he went, Carol, and they all just didn't even think for a split second. They all took off 100 mile an hour. Every animal has some sort of alarm call, right? Sambar is the honk. It is not a communication as in, I'm over here. It's, honk, what are you? Honk, something's there. Honk, come out wherever you are. So they've seen you, and there's different honks.
So it's always fun talking about killing stuff. We just had some technical difficulties. Zeb is back. The joys of long distance podcasting. But we were talking about the clover leaf, the 3 things. We had midweek hunting. We had no moon or lack of moon, and then a cold front trying to get out just after that. And you said, I want to tell you why.
Yeah. So basically what happens with a cold front is the deer go into survival mode. You know, they don't like being wet, wind, and cold, and all the rest of it. So they generally hide in the thicker gullies. They'll bunker down, sort of thing. And if it's an extended period of time, so it might, like 2 or 3 days where a cold front just hangs around and it's windy and it's raining and it's just really miserable, it'll just put so much pressure on those deer that when that weather breaks and it comes out clear, that they just have this overwhelming desire to go and get sun, if they can get some sun. So they'll be out in the clearings, and also to feed, which coincidentally usually is better in the clearer areas because the sun can penetrate the canopy and allows that different, bushes and that to grow. So yeah, that cold front is a massive thing. And if you've done any, like, when I say I don't do study of deer, I watch what the Americans do because there's such a big population of people and there's so many smart people, and a lot of them are hunters. I read up on whitetail hunting after cold fronts, and I've applied that to Sambar, and it's 100% relatable. And also with the moon, they've actually got little wheels that they use to time the moon with rut activity and best times of day to hunt. Can't remember the name of the wheel, but you can sort of basically buy it for the year and you spin it around to the date that you've got to go hunting, and it can tell you whether you should be hunting morning, afternoon, or whatever, or don't bother. So I did a bit of study into that, and I've applied that to Sambar. But the biggest problem with all of this is people don't have the time to implement it.
Sure.
You can't go hunting on a Thursday because you've got to go to that board meeting, or you've got to run that small business, or you've got to drop the kids off at school. You can't go after that cold front because it, for whatever reason, you've got commitments. But if you could time all those 3 things together and do that consistently, I'd nearly hazard, I could bet a house on it that you would be more successful hunting in those conditions than just hunting whenever you possibly could and trying to line it all
What's
up.
that song? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I mean, if you can tick a couple of those boxes, you still... The other thing is, I always say to people, is just, yes, obviously we're talking about ideal situations, but the flip side is you're not going to shoot them from your couch. So
no,
get out there.
Time in the bush.
Time in the bush. So
number 4.
I want to, yeah. We eventually we'll have top 10, the 10 commandments of Zeb. You talk about the rut. Now, I know Sambar don't have like a fallow like specific rut where it's 21-day period. pushing out a little bit longer with an extra second rut and another estrus and
Mhm.
things. Can you explain how the Sambar rut works? And I also want you to throw in there like wattle bushes and things, because I know that a lot of guys say that when the wattles
Yep.
are flowering,
Mhm.
and so
Yep.
run me through that.
Yep. So the wattle thing is purely it's timing of the year. So at the moment we're in full wattle bloom. So it's just a really good time to be in the bush. It coincides with early spring or late winter. And it just in general, because what we've got to talk about with Samba is in general, and I like to call it the 90-10 rule.
Mm-hmm.
90% of the Samba will be doing this and 10% will be doing that. So we don't want to worry about the 10% too much. We want to worry about the 90%. So area specific, Samba roughly at the same time every year. That's what I've found. So depending on your area. So if you can find an area and find rut activity, pay note to when that is, because in general, conditions allowing, so I'll explain that in a bit. Conditions allowing, it will happen at the same time the following year as well, right? Now, what can change that is weather. So I talked to a deer farmer years ago that explained about when he was siring hinds was the hinds that were yearling and hadn't bred yet had to hit a certain weight from their growth before they'd actually cycle for their first time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's related to how much feed they have in that time between being born and when they hit that weight. So in a good year, they hit the weight early. So they might be getting bred at 12 months old. Whereas, if it's a drier year, it might take a few extra months for them to hit that target weight for their body to say, you're big enough now to cycle and to breed. So a rut can be determined by the season, but generally in an area of Samba, it will happen roughly at the same time every year. So pay attention when you're hunting an area. If all the scrapes are active, the wallows are really active, you're smelling ruddy stag, chances are that will happen again the following year.
Just pause on that for a second. Talking about that one deer or that group of deer in a bad season, full circle. Tell me a rough rut date.
August.
Okay. So if we're working on August, they're rutting in August, and then the hinds are pregnant for how long?
Yep. 9 or 10 months. They're very similar to a cow.
Yep, right. So then 9 or 10 months they have their baby, and then we go into drought. You would assume the next rut would be August, but that mum would be in estrus in August again and ready.
Mm-hmm.
But those yearlings or 18 months old, the 2-year-olds and things, if they've had that drought, are they then getting a staggered rut because they're not hitting it in August, they're underweight, so they're coming in again in, let's say, October by the time they hit that weight, or November in, late spring. So
that's probably the 10%.
Okay, but then that's a flow on for their whole life. Unless they miss a season, they might get bought in to estrus with their mums. Anyway, that's just a weird theory, but
it is. But what you find is, and if you have done any study on mule deer specifically, they tend to calve in a very short period. And what it is, it's got a special name. Can't remember what it is because I don't pay attention to this sort of stuff. But basically, what happens is they drop all their calves at the same time, relatively, so that the cougars and the wolves and the coyotes don't kill all their calves spread out over the year.
Yeah.
It's a known thing for prey animals to drop all their calves at once so that the predators can't possibly kill them all. And Samba do the same, but like we talked about with the 10%, there's going to be 10% that are going to be outside of the normal breeding cycle. But what you will notice is when you're hunting an area, you will find most hinds will either be pregnant or have a calf of similar size to the next cow, doe or hind and calf that you find. They tend to find, it's pretty well right. You know what I mean? Like but then every now and again, there's obviously an odd one, but they're the 10%.
Right.
So I hunt the 90%. Yeah.
And do you think would you find the 10% in that same group, or do they find their own
Yep.
mothers club and hang around with their other 10
Uh,
percenters?
I think they intermingle. It's just
They're just not getting.
it's just it's probably a survival trait of Samba because clearly people have talked in the past that Samba can hold their antlers for more than 1 year, which is complete BS. It
Mhm.
doesn't happen. Um, I don't think there's any antlered animal that holds their antlers longer than 12 months.
Not on purpose. I
Um,
mean, it does happen by accident sometimes if there's some damage or
yeah,
something, but
but there's usually
that's the
something wrong with
anomaly.
them.
Correct.
Yeah, not a norm. So, but with Samba, and the reason why thought Samba did that was because at any time of the year you could find a hard antlered stag.
Yeah.
But what that is there's a variation in when they cast by quite a fair bit. So
That's the same with
I know
chital.
a bloke messaged me the other day saying he found a fresh cast on the track because he'd walked along the track to go hunting, and when he came back, it was laying there. He clearly would have stepped over it, so it had just been cast, and that's what September. And now you quite regularly find deer casting into January,
Mhm.
but then you'll find some stags that are rutty in January.
I saw
So
the
the
it was
10%.
only yesterday. Was it Corinne Devissa? I think her name is, and their hog deer.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
Corey. Yep.
Corey. They got a hog deer place and whatnot, and Samber and whatnot. But they just shot one the other day, and it cast after they
Mm.
shot it, like as they shot it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so yeah, like you said, that's the anomaly.
Mm.
Coming back to rutting activity, and we touched on it earlier, where they're a non-vocal species generally.
Generally. Yep.
Do the stags make any noise? And
Yes.
hinds honk, and then so a couple of questions: the stag noises, hind noises, and using that to your advantage in a
Yep.
being honked at situation, but also using some callers. I know there's a couple of mouth callers. I've got one just here somewhere. Uh,
Yep.
do you use them? How do they work? Rip into some noise stuff for
Yep.
me.
Rightio. So let's go with the first one. Do Samba make noise? They all make noise. They don't sort of call in a rut speaking like as in a fallow buck or a red. I have heard stags call 3 times in my life of hunting them since I was 8. I'm 42. Um, 2 of those times I witnessed the deer's mouth moving and the sound coming out. So I could tell it was that particular deer. It wasn't I was looking at deer and heard this noise. It was like I saw it do it.
Now,
So
in a world
and
first
that
exclusive, Zeb is going to give us a indication of
oh,
what the sounded like.
you ever heard a potty calf? So it's a moo. It's a moo like that.
Wow.
And it's only stags that I've heard make that noise.
Was it
And they're
loud
yeah, it's
or
you could
gentle?
hear it probably from within 100 yards quite clearly. The 2 times that I've heard that particular call, the stags have been really rutty and quite aggressive. I believe it's something they talk to each other about, as in stags.
Okay.
It's always been where stags have been together
Mhm.
that I've heard that noise. And I've heard a stag make a more of a squeakier sort of a noise, which sort of simulates an elk cow call.
Mhm.
And I have not ever witnessed a hind making or a calf making a squeaky noise, but I've seen enough footage that other people have shown me of calves making that almost that squeak from that what's that that samba
Flex
call.
mark.
Can't remember what they call it. Flex mark. Yeah. So that squeak, I've never physically heard it in person, but I've seen video footage of little deer making that noise. And so then going into using it, yes, I've played with the flex mark a fair bit. I've got a hoochie mama now, which is another elk caller, but
Mhm.
it's a hand operated one. I use that primarily so I can video and do it at the same time. It's a lot harder to video and mouth call because there's actually a bit of effort in squeezing and biting and all the rest of it. But what I've found with the flex mark and the hoochie mama is it attracts females predominantly, in my experience, that are either heavily pregnant or have a calf somewhere. Now, I don't know if you know that Sambar stash their calves.
Mhm.
They don't actually physically bed with them. So when they've got young calves, you'll quite often walk in on a river flat and you'll bump out a calf and you'll go, "Where's the mum?" Mum is usually a couple hundred yards away, bedded away from it, and that's a predatory survival thing, because calves don't actually have much scent for the first couple of months of their life, believe it or not, and that is so that predators like dogs and tigers can't actively sniff them out while they're curled up, and the mother beds away from them purely so that she can divert danger, because she has a scent. There's no point her bedding next to her calf, because if a predator comes in and they have to make an escape, she might be quick enough to get away, but the calf isn't. So she beds away from her calves. So when you use that flex mark and you bring in a hind, she's probably coming in looking for her calf because she believes that it's calling to her. So I've always sort of cautioned on the side of, if you're calling to shoot a deer, be mindful that you're probably going to orphan a calf that's not going to survive if you're going to shoot that animal when it comes in.
Circles right back to our first conversation about Jägermeister and stewardship and ethical hunting things, and that's a tricky one. That one.
It is. So yeah, you got to. This is the hunting ethics that could mean one thing to someone and to someone else. I've always struggled to shoot hinds. Dad never installed in me shoot the hinds. His theory was the hinds were the breeders, we shoot the stags. So I've always had this stag mentality, and I find it really difficult to shoot hinds, just purely of my own. It's not even ethics. It's more, I don't know. I like them. I like seeing them. I don't like killing them that much. But when I want to eat one, I'll pick the perfect one.
We'll get back to Sambar in a second. I want to pause on that because it's a conversation I've been having recently with a few people, and someone has coined a phrase, and I'm going to steal it off him. Shane's his name, and he listens to all the podcasts. Shout out, Shane. And it's I started the first half of the sentence, and he finished it. But it's let them go, let them grow, but shoot a doe. And it's the topic on that is, and I welcome your opinion, we have too many deer in Australia, and we are not doing enough about it. And because we're not, the government is trying to do what they think is best, which we all obviously agree is not the best option and things, but baiting and aerials and whatnot. But I think it's nearly our fault. And I know that's a controversial topic, and I'm guilty of it. You've just admitted you've done it too.
Yep.
We are selective. We want to, it's nice to see them, but I want to shoot a stag, so we'll let them. But what we're actually doing is allowing numbers to just. I know you say that
build up.
that Sambar, are not explosive in numbers, but I think they're I want to say nearly our largest population of deer. I heard across Australia, and that's partly due to your dispersion model, saying that. I know you said the Queensland border. I mean, technically they do go all the way up to Coburg Peninsula, but that's a whole different herd.
Yeah, technically, there's a bit of a gap.
Yeah, they are there, but they were placed there. And then there's theories about why they are along the Great Dividing Range, being that hunters have taken said calf home and helped dispersion, whatever. But in theory, they disperse other than others. So I don't know. I've gone off topic, and it's just hot on my mind at the moment. And I nearly wanted to. We're toying with a conversation of, and I think it was Tennessee or something. But Robbie Kroger from Blood Origins pointed out to me. We were discussing this, and he said there's a model over there where it's shoot a doe to earn a buck, and you can't go and get your buck tag until you've shot a doe or two, just to keep numbers in balance, and that's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've turned off topic, and please talk about it if you want to. But
well, see, the ADA a little while ago had an initiative for shooting a doe. Let the young stag grow, shoot the doe, and it was basically a badge that you could get if you shot 2 hinds within a year. You could get this badge, right? Yep. So it was some sort of silly incentive to shoot some more hinds.
I don't think it's silly.
Well, what I mean by is, who really wants a badge? What are you going to do with it? You know, you've got this little trophy badge that, you know, what value is it?
It's for the guys who
then?
can't shoot stags. Let's tell it what it is.
That's, well, right, whatever. I'm not going to go down that road, but yeah, I do see we have no management of our herd. So if we want to include Sambar as a herd, we do not manage it at all. The only real management that I see that we do is to allow hound hunting, because hound hunting reduces numbers indiscriminately from calves all the way through to mature stags.
Mhm.
They all get shot. You know, when a deer runs out in front of a hunter, they are shooting them. They're not going, oh, that's not big enough. You know what I mean? So hound hunting definitely is our really only management of numbers that we have in Victoria for Sambar deer, because stalking alone doesn't affect the numbers in any great meaningful way. So what is the answer, I suppose, is you know, it would be good to be able to manage our herd so that we did have better trophies, like in Europe, where they don't shoot stags until they're at the back end of their growth period, basically. Like, they shoot 10 and 12-year-old animals.
Mm-hmm.
They don't shoot 8 and 9-year-old animals that have got these beautiful big antlers. They let them get on the back side of that, and then they start shooting them, and that's purely to improve the herd. We've got no way of implementing that in Victoria. So the only way we could possibly help manage the deer is to incentivize people to shoot them. Which, what would you want to do? You could put a bounty on them, and then all of a sudden people are just out there killing willy-nilly. I'm happy for the government to do what they're doing. I don't believe it's 100% necessary where they're doing it. I believe it's necessary in areas, but I think they're sort of a little ill-advised on what is out in the forest. So I'd love to take some of these officials that think that there's 2 million or 1 million Sambar deer in the high country, because I'd like them to show me where they are.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of hunting and they're not there. I can take you into country where there is very few to, if any, Sambar deer for kilometres and kilometres and kilometres in the bush. And then you can come out to where it's better hunting, as in there's more deer there, but there's still not deer in every gully. There's still not deer 2 kilometres past where the main group of deer are. So I think the numbers are massively inflated. And yeah, maybe we could do more to control the numbers, but it hasn't been asked of us either.
No, it's something we're facing here in New South Wales. It's we've got the local land service going around parading as the answer, getting into farmers' pockets and just getting access and thermally culling deer and things like that. I posted a thing, you might have seen it. I posted it on the Accurate Hunts page the other day, and it's a picture of a guy laying in bed on the phone. He's ringing reception at the hotel, and he says, "Hello, I'd like a wake-up call, please." And she says, "If you stop shooting the small bucks, you may just get to shoot a big buck." And that caused a stir too, because people are like, no, if it's brown, it's down, or if I don't shoot it, someone else will. And all those things are 100% true. But if you don't shoot it because and again, this is not early on in your hunting career. This is later on when you've shot a few things. If you leave it, there's a high chance that someone else actually won't shoot it, just because no one shot it to the point where you're at when you've seen it.
Yeah.
So, deer are clever. And obviously you're pointing out that by going thermal, we're going to remove like part of their camouflage, which I could see the issue with. So I don't know. The management model and things in Australia is a tricky one, because I can definitely see both sides of the coin. And one thing we push for here in New South Wales is access to national parks, which you guys have a little bit better access than we do.
Way better. Yeah.
So, but I actually don't think it's going to yield the results that people think it will. I don't think it's going to be the amen that we want it to be. And it's for exactly what you said there. Selective hunting and stalking is not a productive. It's a component, but it's not an overly productive way of.
No.
So the reason we would get access to a national park is to control feral animal numbers. If I'm going into a national park that has rooster in it, I'm thinking of one particular, I'm not shooting a pig or a fox. Not happening. Like, and I'm not.
Well, see, we're not allowed to.
Well, there you go.
In our national park.
There you go. I'm not shooting a hind or a doe or whatever. You know, I'm holding out for the big rooster stag because that's what I'm in this forest for. So, you know, I am the problem where they want us in there to shoot feral animals, and it's just not going to happen. Anyway, I want to get back to Sambar because that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Something will have to be done eventually because I think hunting organisations will need to step up and maybe try to be a bit more of the answer. And so, if I think last year the numbers stated that we public land hunting killed 100,000 sambar last year in Victoria. So maybe if we could double that, we might see a significant difference in the numbers. But what we've got to do is educate the people that are counting the numbers because we don't want them counting them on farm fringe or in areas where they're not hunted.
Sure.
Because
gives a different
those numbers are inflated.
Yeah. And
perspective. I'm fully happy for thermal crews to go through and absolutely slay deer where we're not allowed to hunt. To the point where there's no deer there, I don't care because we're not allowed to hunt there. It's going to upset a lot of poachers that poach it, but you know what I mean? I don't care.
There's no loss to the stalking community. Yeah.
There's no loss to the ethical, legitimate hunter.
And if that makes the government think that they're winning, well, let them have it.
That's right. And so, and then add on to the farm fringe stuff. So I know a lot of farmers now have transitioned from, I like seeing the deer to kill every deer that you see. So the farmers are on board now. Kill all the deer within that farm fringe. Do it. Get it done. Or at least get it to a point where the farmers are happy with the numbers that are there because they used to be happy with them. 20 years ago, they were happy with.
Do you have regulations on thermal usage on private land? That's fine.
No, so private land it's legal for destruction of deer. Yeah. So spotlight.
Okay. I want to go back to the verbal thing because I've been honked at, and numerous times, and I've seen the result, or a flash of a deer running away. But for those that are listening that maybe not have experienced it or don't understand it, the only way I can explain it is an air horn when you're not expecting it right behind you. Or a train at a level crossing that's blowing his horn. Like, it is a bone-tingling, loud noise that comes out of a tiny little voice box on an animal. And it often perplexes me. And, we'll get there eventually. I know we've been going for 17 hours. But you're going overseas and you're going to hear some animals make some noises over there that are incredible and amazing to hear. And then you hear a big sambar just go, "Bah!" And that was quite loud for everyone listening in their car, and I apologise.
There was a little girl on that one too, by the way.
Oh, yeah, well, so I'm a juvenile. All right? I'm, just haven't reached my first estrus. But it's an incredible sound. And then, comparatively to like a moose who is bigger again, male and female, and they make a weirder, smaller sound. Like, I don't understand how animal vocabulary works, but
so let's dive into it a little bit. So you've got moose and elk, right? That are your main vocal ones in America. Whereas your whitetail and your muleys are less vocal, like especially a mule deer. So think of mule deer and sambar as probably very similar.
Yes.
So the sounds that you're hearing, those honks, are alarm sounds. So fallow deer have a bit of a grunt bark. So do red deer, and then obviously every animal has some sort of alarm call, right? Sambar is the honk. It is not a communication as in, I'm over here. It's, honk, what are you? Honk, something's there. Honk, come out wherever you are. So they've seen you and there's different honks. So on the last trip, we got the honk. You're there. I'm telling everyone that you're there. Honk. I can still see you. I can see you. I don't know what you are. Honk, 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 and it goes on and on and on, and they don't move. But then we also had the honk. Oh shit, a hunter, and that was a stag that we put up unexpectedly, and he gave us the full volume, full noise honk that is designed to almost intimidate you a little bit, to make you think twice about, oh shit, what, is that something I want to chase and grab a hold of because you're a tiger? And it gives him that split-second advantage to get 2 or 3 big strides on you, because a tiger needs to be within 30 yards of its prey to launch an attack that could be successful. If it's 50 yards away, a Sambar Deer is going to outrun it. It's got faster leap speed. It can't do it.
Remember that time when you said you didn't study things that didn't help you kill deer? I think you've actually proved that you have done some studies over there.
I've done some study, but I don't scientifically.
Yeah, righto. a Tigus uranimus, or whatever its technical name is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the stag honk, you can probably is it easy to tell the difference between a stag and a hind if you can't visually see the result?
Yep. A big stag and a hind, definitely, because usually big stags are very quiet and quite happy to slip away without making any noise. Mm-hmm. That's because they've been educated, right? So you're talking about 8 or 10-year-old stag. He's been educated by hunters to get to that age. Mm-hmm. So he knows what you are. So he doesn't have to, and he doesn't like letting everyone know. He's happy to let his hinds take the brunt, right?
Sneak out.
Or the young stag. It's been clearly demonstrated with hound hunting that stags will run hounds back through a group of hinds so that the dogs drop off him and onto the hinds. It's been done. Stags have been doing it for decades, right? So stags sacrifice everyone else so they can survive. Yeah. Whereas hinds, they're natural mothers. They've got that nature about them, so they protect the herd, right? So they're likely to stand there and honk at you up to 100 times. I've heard over 100 honks from the one deer that just will not go away because it's obviously got a calf or something nearby.
Hey guys, Dodge butting in, middle of a podcast here, but I just wanted to ask you a favour. If you can head over to the Accurate Hunts YouTube channel, subscribe, like, leave a comment on your favourite video, anything like that. It really helps. YouTube's burying us at the moment, and anything like that helps. If you can jump on our socials, Accurate Hunts on Facebook, Accurate Hunts on Instagram, nothing special. We're on there. All our reels are on there, short form videos, long form content, regular engaging posts. Just jump on, give us a like, give us a share. It all helps, and it all keeps this podcast running and at the top of everyone's list. So I do appreciate it. Again, thanks for listening, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Catch ya. I know you're not hunting hinds, but is that useful? If someone was to hunt a hind, or just hunting Sambar in general, if it's brown, it's down, and you got honked at and you were trying to hunt that deer, are you standing still to then try and locate it and then maybe take a step sideways to get it to respond and then take a shot? Or is it better to sit down and let it, go back? They're not going to calm down very quickly, are they?
They can. So Sambar are funny, right? Like if you've hunted chital, and I've hunted chital, but only with the bow, right? If one chital out of a mob sees you and does its little bark, the whole mob runs without question. I saw it with a spiky, right? A full Sambar hunter. I was stalking in on this mob of chital, and this one spiky pinned me, right? Of 30 deer, he pinned me, and I've just gone, they won't pay any attention to him. So I kept doing what I was doing because I was hunting Sambar that had white dots, right? And he went, Carol, and they all just didn't even think for a split second. They all took off 100 mile an hour. Sambar don't do that. Right. Sambar can quite often hear a honk and not even lift their head from feeding, depending on what animal does the honk.
Or what style of honk it might be.
Style of honk, but also who did the honk. If it's a young deer, they're more than likely might pay a little bit of attention, but not much attention. But if it's a matriarch hind, then they're going to all pay attention, right? Or a big stag. But so the honk, yeah, if you hear a honk, then it's obviously a way of locating a deer. If you can tell what kind of honk it is, so there's the honk, shit, it's a hunter, I'm out of here, usually followed by a 300 kilogram deer crashing through the bush with no regard to eye safety. They just must squint and just go for it because they don't worry about bushes or shrubs or anything. They just go beelining. That deer is gone, wave goodbye, go find another deer. But if you get that inquisitive honk, I've seen something, what was that? Then there's a really good chance if you stay still or get low to the ground and reduce your human figure and even make a bit of a call with a flex mark, or I've tried rubbing trees with sticks and stamping my foot and grunting and doing all sorts of funny little noises. They're quite inquisitive. They will come in for a look, or they'll step out and they do a lot of this sort of stuff, right? Where their head's bobbing, trying to get a different angle on you because they've seen something. They haven't smelt you. If they smell you, they're gone, right? They don't ever second guess their nose. They second guess their eyes and their ears. So yeah, a honk can allow you to get that location. And I've shot a few deer that have been honking at me, and you can move around a fair bit if you reduce your height down to an animal because they've obviously not really worked out what you are.
You could be another. You could be a kangaroo, or
it could be another deer.
Yep.
I've done the old, bend down and sort of try to give myself a back line and basically ran at them, and they don't run away until you stand up. I've tried all sorts of funny things. I've been the wallaby in the paddock, and that works. Sambar, like I talked about earlier, they have a natural safety zone around them, which I reckon is about 30 yards in thick country, and it might be out to 50, 60 metres in more open country. And the more open it gets, the bigger it gets. But what it is that same 30-metre zone that a tiger needs to be within. So if you are the tiger, right, and you're inside that zone, you will get a honk that is, oh shit, hunter, I'm out of here. You won't get the honk, what are you sort of thing. But outside that zone, you can quite regularly get that honk, what are you zone, because you're outside of that natural.
I call it the zone of influence. Yeah. Two things. Scent you spoke about, and you said it's unavoidable, and it's unusual that they will second guess their ears, considering the size of their ears. From a caping point of view and taxidermy, their ears are actually quite enjoying them.
They're huge.
They're easier to do than a small one. And so you're saying their scent is unavoidable. Oh, sorry, that they don't second guess their scent. Do you do anything to mask yours other than wind direction? No. Okay, so you're not one.
I wash all my clothes in Domino or whatever the hell it is that the wife has. Whiter whites, brighter colours. I don't believe in any of that.
What about camouflage?
It's all scented. I definitely use camouflage, but that's to hide from hunters.
Gotcha. And on the camouflage topic, one that I ask every Sambar person I know, and they all have a different answer. Orange. Now, obviously, state forest, you got to wear orange and things. What color are tigers? Orange. So in my mind, originally, I used to think that what a dumb choice. You'd think that they would be coded to see that color of grey as a threat. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're thinking the wrong way. You're thinking from the prey side. Think of the predator. Why would he be orange if a deer could see him?
Yeah, that's what got corrected when I asked everyone. Yeah.
So basically, it's a color they can't see. Apparently, if you read anything about deer's vision, they can't see that color. It blends in with greens or browns or something. I've hunted with blaze orange since I was 17. I've hunted with blaze orange when I was bow hunting. I don't believe that it glows or it shows up. Usually solid colors. So if I have a blaze cap, if I could get mine, it's got black, through it.
Sure.
So if you go black and white, then it just looks like anything else. But Yeah, I I honestly don't think they see it. They can't see
And
it because otherwise, yeah, you would never
they
get
would,
that close.
otherwise we wouldn't be able to shoot them. One of the other ones was that I learnt early on in my non-sambar hunting career was positioning yourself so you're looking at what I would call the north face, uh,
Yeah.
which can you explain that? Because I haven't looked into it too much, and I don't use this in my normal hunting career. But wouldn't you, the sun rises in the east? Wouldn't you be not looking at for a face that faces the sun directly as it's rising? Like, why a north face?
So, um, I don't subscribe to the North
Okay.
Face theory. So there's a few things that have been a common thing that people have said. It's like Sambar Deer bed 3/4 of the way up a hill. Well, I yes, they do, but they also bed everywhere in between, all the way to the river flats. So there's rules. Well, people have talked about things for so long that people just think that that's so the North Face thing, right? Um, it's not. Don't forget North Face and think, where does the sun uh, impact at the first chance it can?
Mhm.
So when it comes up over the hill in the morning, where does that sun hit? Is like I don't look at my compass and go, it's not a North Face. I'm not looking at that. If it's got sun on it, it's got sun on it. It could
Yeah.
be, like a different. It's going to have some sort of northerly aspect to it, but it could be a northeast, it could be a northwest, rah rah rah. Depending on where the hill is, it almost be a south aspect as well, because just the way the sun works. Depending on the terrain, you know what I mean. Like the flatter it is, if it's a flat, well, what aspect is a flat? Is it north, east, south, west? What is it? It's all of the above, isn't it?
Mhm.
So, and the theory is that Sambar are looking for the sun, and that's true for the very coldest months of the year. But it's totally the opposite in December and January when it's really hot. They're not looking for the north face at all. They're looking for shade. And the temperature where they start looking for shade is very similar to when we start looking for it. So the way what I try to teach is, if you're uncomfortable sitting in the sun and looking to sit in the shade, so are the deer. If you are sitting in the shade and you're uncomfortable and you want to sit in the sun because it's nice and warm, they are doing the same. So don't worry about what temperature it is. Just go, what do I want to do?
Comfort level.
I want to sit in the shade. The deer are sitting in the shade. If I want to sit in the sun, that's what the deer are doing. But there's always 90 and 10, right? So the 90% will be following that, and 10% will be doing something completely
Sitting
different.
on a sunny hillside on a 30-degree day. What are some other
Yep.
misconceptions of Sambar?
Yeah, here's a good one. Have you ever heard of that Sambar Deer bed up behind trees to hide from hunters?
I have.
Like they put a tree there. So I just had the client uh, last week, not this last one, but the one before, and he was talking to me about how he'd been on a hunter education course, and they talked about how the Sambar put the tree in over their vital zones, and all this sort of thing. And I said, all right, well, when we find a deer bed today, I'll explain to you why the deer bedded there.
Can I
Anyway, so
can I
you can
guess?
imagine we're on. All right, yeah, have a guess.
Just because it's a slightly flatter spot because the dirt goes up towards the tree?
Yeah. Well, 50% of the way there.
Yeah, right.
So why is the tree there? Did the deer pick that the tree was there? No.
No?
So right, so we need to draw a picture in
Yeah.
our minds, right? So we've got a slope, and then we've got a tree growing out of the slope, right, straight up. When we get heavy rain, what happens with the dirt and the twigs and the leaves
It
and
all heads
stuff? We
downhill.
get erosion that runs downhill. And what does it hit when it gets to the tree?
The bump, the
Stump,
stump.
right? Well, the butt of the tree. So naturally, over time,
Soft.
and usually the bigger the tree, the more time the tree has been there, right? So over 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 100 years, that tree has grown there. That debris has built up at the base of that tree, and it forms a natural flat spot.
And it's soft.
And guess
probably.
what? The
Yeah.
deer walks along and goes, there's a natural flat spot. I'm going to sit there. It's going to be comfortable. It doesn't think, shit, there's a tree. Oh, I know old mate sitting over there with his 300 PRC and his Shawoski scope, and he's going to shoot me from 780 yards away. He doesn't know that. He hasn't adapted to hiding from modern hunters. He's adapted to hiding from tigers, right? He's still got that instinct. He doesn't have the instinct to hide from 300 PRCs at 700 yards, right? But that tree has created that flat spot. Another one was the hide behind stumps. Well, naturally, when a tree falls over, it drags out a bit of soil, and then over time, that erosion, once again, naturally fills up that hollow. Sometimes they turn into wallows, but sometimes they turn into the best flat spot you've ever seen. And then what happens is a bushfire comes through, burns that log completely, so you don't even know that the log was there. And you go, wow, look at this awesome spot. And that was formed from a tree falling over, the roots pulling the dirt out, the erosion coming down, fills in the flat spot. The deer comes along and goes, that's a cool flat spot. I'm sitting there because I don't want to sit on a hill like this. I want to sit on a flat spot. That's why stags love ridges, because naturally ridges have these little ups and downs. And where you get that little steep up and then the little flat out, that's where they'll have beds up there. The stags particularly love bedding on ridges.
So
that's why they love rock. Those big rock bluffs that everyone wants to find. There's natural flat spots at the top of them and especially at the bottom of them, and that's purely through natural erosion of the soil. It's not because of any other feature. It is that there is a flat spot there and the deer know it.
You know what it's like to walk across a hill with crooked ankles. You're looking for a flat spot to rest on.
Yeah, that's why they form game trails, right? So they walk the same way regularly enough to form a flat walking surface.
Mate,
where do we walk when we're in the bush?
We're just dumbos, aren't we? Just trying to make sense of what they're doing.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I think what's happened over the years is some people have been very intelligent and have made deer hunting into something, right? Whereas I dumb it down a bit, right? So I don't want to know the scientific botanical names of the plants. I don't want to think that the deer has comprehension of, I'm going to stand behind this tree so the hunter can't shoot me. It's pure coincidence that Sambar stand behind a tree because there's so many bloody trees for them to stand behind. If when they live in that open country, they don't run to a tree and stand behind it. They go, "Oh
run
shit,
to a flat
you got
spot."
me." So a lot of what has been said in the past is it's not misinformation, but it's you're making it out to be something more than it is. Deer react to their environment, their habitat, hunting pressure, the weather, that sort of thing. Nothing more. They don't have conscious thought of I'm gonna, they don't dig out beds, right? Why don't they use their feet to dig out a bed? They don't do that. They naturally find flat spots. I've never found a bed where I could physically see scrape marks where they've been trying to flatten it out or even move a stick that was there. So quite often, and I find myself doing this and I laugh at myself, is if I see a deer bed and it's got a rock in the middle of it and I think, shit, that'd be uncomfortable, I kick it off from it. And I think maybe one day that'll be good karma and a big stag will be sitting there one day because he's more comfortable sitting there without the rock.
Yeah, make it better for him.
But that's my silly brain.
So in that silly brain of yours, we're going to head towards wrapping up. We've still got a little bit to get to, but everything we've covered tonight and more is available through a hunting course that you do.
It is.
How does the course operate? How do people find you? And
yeah, so I've got a couple of different ways we can do this. Basically, I like to educate people. I like to see people enjoying hunting, right? Because I believe if we can promote people into enjoying it, we'll have more people doing it. It makes it harder for the greenies and the lefties to get rid of us, right? So the more people doing it, the better. But we want people doing it the right way, ethically, all the rest of it. But also to do that, you need to enjoy it, right? So bumbling around in the bush for 15 years trying to work it out for yourself isn't always the best way to do it. So trying to get onto someone like a mentor, if you can get a mentor a personal mentor, that's key, right? So don't worry about me. If you can find someone to show you the ropes that's done it, they're the ones that you want to cotton on to, because they're just going to shorten up your learning, right? Because they've done it before. But if you haven't got that person in your circle of hunting friends or whatever, check out my website, so www.zebrashunting.com, and there you will find a link to my online course. So basically, the online course is 16 modules, goes through a heap of different lessons from sign to navigation, the gear you need, shot placement, field butchering, caping, how to find an area, all the rest of it. So everything in there for the new hunter up to the intermediate hunter, to get to a point where you can be successful on your own, right? Now it's interactive, so it has an online forum where you can post questions and they come notifications straight to me. So you might do the course and you might be doing the navigation module and something might make sense to you. Post it up on the forum and then I get the notification and I'll answer your question. So that's a cool kind of way, sort of interactive online course.
So that's
now also
course.
within and I'm going to expand on that hopefully next year and make it more interactive, where I might actually sell it as, so it'll be a separate thing to that online course, but it'll run very similar, where a group of people will join up, and then over 4 or 5 months, I'm going to take you from zero to getting your first deer, right? That's going to be the mission. So if you've literally gone and decided, I've looked at a wild deer magazine, that's it, I'm hooked, I'm going to do this, I'm going to help you get your firearms license, game license, all the gear you need, how to find a spot, how to shoot. I'm thinking about doing a range day, and then going through to a weekend away as a group with me so that we can go and have a hunt. And hopefully that's at the end of that, we can get a deer each.
And you're not going to take them to where you took Christoph, obviously.
No. But so I'm going to be working on that one over the summer, actually. But I've also within Patreon. So if you haven't heard of Patreon, it's a paid platform that it was created to support content creators and artists and all the rest of it. Now, a lot of YouTubers have got onto it to make some income, basically, is what it is. So because my channel's so small in size, the views that you get from YouTube and the ad revenue that you make is minimal. Like it's a couple of $1,000s a year kind of thing. So to sort of build it into something, Patreon's just become a way of having your supporters and your followers donate to you so that you can continue to do what you're doing. And to be honest with you, without the support that I've got on Patreon, I wouldn't be doing anything of what I am doing now, because it is actually allowing me financially to remove myself from my trade of 25 years and follow this path that I'm on. But within Patreon, I have a mentor tier. So it's $250 a month. But what that does is it gives you access to me, phone, Zoom calls, computer screens. We talk about where you're hunting, strategies to hunt your areas, or any question you've got. You can ring me, email me, message me, whatever. And over that month, you've got my my attention. Now, there's only 3 people per month that can get onto that tier, just so that I don't spread myself out too thin, because quite often you get a couple of blokes that are just full on. They just want to know everything, and it takes up a lot of time. But so that's why I've sort of cut it off at 3, just so I can give you that time that you deserve, So that has been really successful. I've had numerous people take their first deer or their first stag or their best stag after a month or 2 of mentoring. Basically just phone calls, messages, a few Google links shared between each other. This is how I'd hunt that spot. Or I might even actually have knowledge of that area where I'll say, you're wasting your time there. Go around the corner, drop into there, then you're going to be on the deer. but yeah, at the moment, that's sort of what I've got going on. I've got some bigger plans for the next year with some drop hunts, which will be self-guided style hunts, where I'll take you into areas, drop you off with obviously some knowledge and GPS with some waypoints on it of interest. So that way, the question about the guy coming from Sydney might be worth contacting me. You pay me a fee, you get dropped off into a productive area. At least that way, you're not wasting your time driving to and from and having to do heaps of scouting. I'm putting you into areas that I have knowledge on, and I know that there's going to be trophy deer or, deer that you want to harvest for meat in that area. All you've got to do is piece it all together. Where where the person that can't afford to, or I'm booked out for a guided hunt, might enjoy doing the self-guided style hunt, but being placed into the hotspot, if you want to say it
And
like
these
that.
are on public land?
Yeah, all public land. So I am the only one that I
I
know of.
was
So
getting there.
correct me if I'm wrong. Give me a message if you are a business running a hunting business that's running in Victoria on public land that has Parks Victoria tour guide license. I'd like to hear from you. You can look me up on their website, parksvictoria.com, and go to tour guides, click on hunting as an activity, and you will see all the tour guides that are licensed to hunt on public land, so state forest and national park in Victoria. You'll see all the tour guides there listed. It's a pretty long list.
Just Zeb.
It's me.
Just Zeb.
Just me. Yeah. So I have weekly interactions with Parks Victoria, a fair bit with GMA as well too, because I'm always in the bush. They're actually quite interested to know what I'm observing, which is it's all part of it, I suppose. Yeah, but I've got a pretty good relationship with Parks Victoria through being the first licensed tour guide operating a hunting business. They're actually quite intrigued to what I wanted to do and where I wanted to do it and all the rest of it. So it's been quite good dealing with them.
Congratulations for heading down that path. You get to the pointy
Mm.
end of the game when you're the only ones. I mean, like, not in the same scope at all, but in my fencing business in my local area here, and this came up tonight on a Facebook post, I'm pretty sure I am the only licensed fencer in my area. And the license carries
Yeah.
not a whole lot of weight. It's just a fair Department of Fair Trading. I'm a licensed tradesperson. But, regularly I get comments on Facebook, my fence blew down, and there's just like 30 tags of like handyman and I can fix it
Mm.
and Jim's this and whatnot. And I don't actually usually comment my own business. I just say something like, I don't care who you go with, like, just ask for their license details or their insurance details
Yeah.
or anything. And it's
Insurance.
the
Yeah.
same in our gig on the guiding thing. It's there used to be an Australian Guides Association, and there isn't at the moment. There is a little bit of push for one in return, but the first place it will appear will be in the Northern Territory because it's highly, like, the money up there is incredible for American clients.
Yeah.
And then hopefully it filters down because I think there's a rising tide lifts all boats. Like, I think if we can increase the quality and standard across the board, and I say this a lot, there's a lot of guides out there. There's very few outfitters that do it well. Anyone can be a guide. You can take people hunting and make $200 or $300 or whatever. But it's when you get to that next level, like you have, it's that's the pointy end of the triangle. Now, before we wrap up, I've said it 97 times. You're heading somewhere in the next couple of days. That's why I nabbed you just before you fly out. But by the time this episode comes to air, and I'm probably going to split it in two because it's been a pretty long one, but we'll see how it goes. You will already be over there or maybe on your way back. But where are you headed? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And
so heading to Montana. Yeah. So Montana, flying into Bozeman and then driving out towards Gardner, I believe it is, to go and catch up with some friends that are already over there now. Actually, they flew out a week ago. He does a bit of taxidermy back home, and every year he goes over and does like a week taxidermy sort of course to try and improve and learn different techniques and whatnot. But then he also catches up with a friend that has an outfitting business called Specimen Creek Outfitters. And basically, they've got a bit of a plan to try and set up an outfitting business to take Aussies over to Montana and start guiding there. So my mate's got a guide license and everything already, so he's been doing that for a couple of years, which is pretty cool. But if he did set up a business, I said that I'd be interested in maybe jumping on board to be a guide for maybe a couple of hunts a year, but also to organise like bookings for Aussies for my viewers, for anyone in Australia that might be looking to go over and chase an elk, or they also do goat, bighorn sheep, mule deer, I believe. So, and that's kind of part of what I did in Africa as well, is set up that base for people to be able to contact someone that they trust to organise a hunt internationally, so that you don't get caught out on some sort of dud trip. And like what we talked about prior to the podcast with what you're doing is, you can't really recommend something unless you've been there and you've experienced it. So part of this trip is getting over there, is learning, how the ranch runs. And
this is your recce.
this is my reconnaissance. So when I come back, if I'm going to sell a hunt to Montana, I can say, well, this is what the accommodation's like, the food's like this, the guides that are there are, awesome people, the hunting is like this, etc., etc. Exactly like what I've done in Africa, and that's only a new thing for me, but I kind of build off my reputation. I think everyone that sort of follows me can sort of see that, I'm not full of hot wind and bullshit. So hopefully, if you are intending to hunt overseas, internationally somewhere, that you can take my word that, what I'm saying is true, and it can alleviate a lot of the issues that you can have when you go on an international hunt, which I've done myself. You would have done before, where you get over there and it's not what you're expecting. And it can be a quite disappointing experience if you've paid a lot of money to get there, taking a lot of time off work and etc.
I think we've come full circle to Christoph again, and it comes down to managing expectations, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, I'm not going to send someone to Africa that he's not into that style of hunting, and I can tell them that before I go there. Or we send them somewhere else in Africa that's not the
different style of hunting,
high fence stuff, estate stuff, but it's a whole nother. It's not what people imagine as high fence, but that's a topic for another night. But it's funny you talk about familiarities. I mean, Zeb and I only spoke on the phone the other day for the first time, really, and he's starts mentioning this place. He's going to Specimen Creek. I said, "Oh, that's a pretty nice place." And I don't know whether he fully clicked on straight away, but like I have hunted that area, and the outfit I was with was right next door. I spent many a nights drinking too many cheap Coronas in Gardner, and they do a really good prime rib down there. It's a great little town, but and I believe the outfit you're working for is actually brothers of the outfit that I was working for.
Yes, so you must have went with Hell's a Roaring.
It's an amazing. That's it, Hell's a Roaring. It's an amazing place. Just that whole area. Gardner Airport's an amazing airport. That town is just full of Bozeman. Sorry, Bozeman Airport.
Bozeman, yeah.
It's just full of like old school country, and it's actually, I think it's the home of Meat Eater. I think they're in Bozeman.
Oh, yeah, it is. I saw that today.
Yeah. So they're in Bozeman. So definitely worth going to check out. I think First Light's headquarters are there too, maybe. But
Stone Glacier.
Just some interesting stuff. But it's a small world when you. I've been to the Stone Glacier place. Schnee's as well is there, another boot sort of company. Once you get into the guiding and the booking agency side of thing, it's a small world.
I had a mate call in the other day, and we're organising a trip to New Zealand next year. anyway, he's going, "Where are you going again?" And I'm sort of explaining it to him, and he goes, "Oh, I've been there somewhere." And I said, "What was the name of the outfit?" And he goes, "Oh, Hell's something." And I go, "Not Hell's Aurora." And he goes, "Yeah, that's where I went." So my mate that I hunt with all the time has been on a hunt with Hell's Aurora, and I'm going with the brother next door, basically. So yeah, it is a small world.
Yeah. Well, then the reason there is a fair few guys that have been over at Hell's Aurora, and it's because a lot of the guides he had working over there were Australians. So there's a couple that have been over there. Jamie Bell is one.
Jamie Bell, yeah.
And he's been in the industry for a long time, and he guided there for many years. And then his daughter has been over there and worked there, and then friends of his have gone and worked there. I'm trying to think of all their names right now, but and that's how I got my start, was through like a third person removed down from Jamie Bell had gone over and then gave me my connection and start. So it's just one of those places that you'll be walking around SHOT Show and you're talking about elk hunting, and they're like, "Oh, I've been over there," and that's the same place. So it's a crazy place on the side of Yellowstone. So, mate, I look forward to hearing your stories when you get back. We'll catch up. We'll catch up in person at SHOT Show. Also, just on the SHOT Show thing, if anyone has never heard of SHOT Show, this is not Zeb related, or SHOT Expo, I think they're calling it. It is an amazing place to visit. And I was talking to the organizers down there today about something, and like he said, "Oh, what does SHOT Show mean to you?" And I'm like, I cannot explain it. It's like I love chocolate, and it'd be like me at the Cadbury factory. It's just full of everything I love. The people, the industry, the new products, the old products, just this hub of hive, in like this buzz of excitement. And we haven't had one for a few years. So it's even going to be extra special this year. It's in Melbourne. I think it's the 18th and 19th of October. Highly recommend anyone grabs a ticket. It's only, I want to say it's like $40, $28 a day or something, $30 a day. It's not crazy money. I think it was $50 for the 2-day pass or something. So anyway, that's a side note. There's been a few in this episode. Highly recommend. You'll be down there with?
Yeah, I'll be down there with Pumba Safaris from South Africa. I'll be in their stand, promoting their business. But drop in and have a chat about anything, really. So also, I've been invited to be the guest speaker at the ADA dinner. So if anyone's in Melbourne, I think on the 5th of October, they do have limited tickets. Jump on board there. I'll be talking there. I think I've got 2 half-hour slots there. So I think they do like a 4-course dinner, and they give away the presentation for the Arthur Bentley Biggest Sambar of the Year is given that night, and a few other different things. So should be a good night if anyone's interested in hearing what I've got to say a bit more. And you're in town, have a look at buying a ticket.
That's a pretty good invite to get there, mate.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that one, actually. It's so in front of all the peers, which is good. I'm sort of getting a little bit humbled there. It's
I do feel sorry for the organisers trying to keep
to half an hour.
I feel sorry for the organisers trying to keep you to a half an hour time slot. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's a struggle.
I think I don't even know how far we've gone in tonight, because we've broken down halfway there. But mate, I really appreciate it.
We're at 90 minutes and now we're at 60 minutes.
Stuff out of this. I hope they head across. Yeah, I know. But I hope for anyone listening, head over and check out Zeb's channel. Check out the YouTube stuff. Check out the Patreon. Send him a message and say hello. And for $250 a month, you get unlimited Sambar knowledge, which it's like, I understand that people will balk at that and think, oh, it's a lot of money for nothing. But it's, you think about, if you want to book a specialist appointment for your kid to go and see a doctor, it's $250 to $450 for one appointment for an hour.
Yeah, for 10
minutes. Specialist in the industry. What you're getting here is a specialist. That's right. You're getting a specialist in an industry for a month to, basically to yourself. You got to share him with his wife, kids, and 2 other people. But, that's a small price to pay, I think. So And I'm not
Yeah,
a
well, you look at
reader.
it,
I
it's
know,
only
Errol's got
2
his
tanks
books
of
and
fuel.
whatnot, and I technically, well, true. But I technically own Errol's books. I think they're in the corner over here in my bookshelf. But I don't read them. I'm more of this sort of person, a conversation. So,
Yeah.
I'd love to come and do your course, come and do his course, and just
Mm,
learn more about Sambar in general. But I
mm.
look forward to catching up with you down at Chocho. That's for sure.
Yeah, will be good.
Any final words before we wrap up? I shouldn't say that because it'll be 25 minutes. I'm going to cut you off. We're
Nah,
done. We're
I
calling it.
do. So just
Go.
everyone just enjoy hunting for what it is. Try to stay on the right side of the line, and everyone can continue to enjoy what we've got. Especially in Victoria, we've got almost unlimited access to a whole heap of public land, and we don't want to stuff that up for the next generation. So just think about your impact on what could happen in the future.
Well said, Zeb. And we'll leave it there. Thanks for now and for everyone. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. Just wanted to remind you of competition we've got going at the moment. Hunt or a hat. Now, head over to www.accuratehunts.com/podcast. On that page, you'll find a submission form. Send us in a question. Now, topic specific, generalized question, beginner question, advanced question, question for me, question for a guest, whatever you want it to be. Send it through. And if we read it on air as one of the questions we roll through with our guests, you get a chance to win a hat. So either myself or the guest will pick a winner, best question, and that person wins a hat. Now, to complement that, everyone that sends a question in goes in the draw to win a hunt with me. So not just those that win the hat and get on air, everyone who sends a question. So send them in. I've loved reading them. There's been some pearlers, and I look forward to cracking through some of them. A lot more than I expected, to be honest. So we're up to nearly 100 or so, but we're getting through. So please send them in. Keep in touch. Let me know what you think, and good luck to all those people that send in entries.